And this is a great example of this. Former Mexican President Vicente Fox, during the recent Gen Z protests, appeared wearing a strawman hat pirate t-shirt. It's over. They've totally co-opted the strawman pirate shit. Okay? Just because there is real discontent in the country, bro, what you're saying is correct, but you don't know what you're talking about. Wait, I'm confused. How does that work? Anyway, we're going to talk about the Gen Z protests, which aren't necessarily led by the Gen Z. Gen Z protests in Mexico demand justice for murdered mayor. So, as you guys might know, we are big fans of the Morena Party and Claudia Sheinbaum, who is an incredibly popular leader in Mexico. Like, actually unimaginably popular. And yet, for some reason, even though she has like 80% approval, at a time when the Trump administration is actively trying to present an argument as to why they must militarily dominate South America and North America, but just specifically every country in the every country beyond the southern border of the right. Interestingly enough, Mexico is the next country that apparently is seemingly building a real movement, a real angered response against Claudia Sheinbaum, who is unimaginably popular. Now, there is also another anti-cartel mayor that was very popular in Mexico who got assassinated by the cartel. This created real anger and real resentment. Okay? What proof do you have that this is a CIA operation? I'm going to get to it. Okay? I think, first of all, it's purely speculative. The reason why I'm saying that it's potentially a CIA backed or CIA pushed movement, potentially, is not a CIA operation, I swear to God, is because while the anger, it has the workings of a color revolution for sure, and it didn't really work anyway, but it's not good that they were able to reach a boiling point here in Mexican politics, that they could actually bring together this many people at all, or any people at all. It aligns perfectly with America's argument, with the American State Department's argument in the argument that every single one of these Latin American countries are narco trafficking hubs, and they are narco states that actually play ball with cartels, and they must be violently squashed, no matter how popular they might actually be with the population. Claudia Sheinbaum is overwhelmingly popular. In Mexico. It is not like any of these other tension points that have bubbled up all around the country. Things that we saw in Indonesia. Like the Gen Z uprising thing has been presented all around the world, right? You're so wrong. Lol, get the fuck out. You don't know shit about Mexico. Lol, dude, seriously, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you don't know shit about Mexico politics. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, so wrong, it's not even funny. Listen, if you are one of these liberals that is going to sit here and talk about how unpopular Claudia Sheinbaum actually is, you can just silence yourself. Okay? There has been a lot of discontent. There's been a lot of discontent, especially amongst the youth in many other countries around the world. This one, in particular, is real anger that boiled up, like a real anger that reached a boiling point due to an anti-cartel mayor being assassinated by the cartel. This is real, right? There was real resentment and real anger towards this. And then it very quickly was seized by the neoliberal former old guard of Mexican politics, who have despised Morena, who despised AMLO, and certainly despise Claudia Sheinbaum. Okay? And this is a great example of this. Former Mexican President Vicente Fox, during the recent Gen Z protests, appeared wearing a strawman hat pirate t-shirt. It's over. They've totally co-opted the strawman pirate shit. Okay? Just because there is real discontent in the country, just because there's real discontent in the country, bro, what you're saying is correct, but you don't know what you're talking about. Wait, I'm confused. How does that work? The cartel issue has not been solved in Mexico. It's the number one problem. Okay? This is true. The cartel issue is the number one problem in Mexican politics that just like still dominates the lives of regular, everyday Mexican people. I was making fun of that chatter. I'm sorry, but the idea that this is CIA or US is very silly. The Mexican authorities are incredibly cooperative with the US intelligence, State Department, and military. This is not that deep. It is members of the marginalized opposition parties trying to use a galvanizing issue to drive a wedge in the otherwise popular governing coalition. I agree with that. But don't you also think that this works so perfectly with the through line, with the argument that the State Department is presenting in all Latin American countries right now? I'm sorry, but it is, I don't disagree with you that there is like real animosity, and the former marginalized, the former neoliberal parties are actually trying to use this as an opportunity. They see it as a weakness because it's almost impossible to deal with the cartels. And they see this as a weakness. It's ironically part of the reason why they lost too. But when they were governing, and they're using this as an opportunity to attack the government, to claw back some kind of power. Okay? And yes, they're marginalized. They have marginal representation because people don't vote for them. But this government, our government, the United States government has said that they're going to attack Mexico over and over again. What makes you think, even for a moment, what makes you think that this is not perfectly in line with their goals here? It's the same with Maduro and Machado. Machado gets a Nobel Peace Prize after demanding violent military intervention in Venezuela. This administration very clearly having, this administration, the American administration, very clearly has an ambition to further destabilize Latin American countries. And not only do they want to further destabilize Latin American countries, they want to violently attack Latin American countries. And they will use any kind of marginal reason to justify that advance. As far as what Cloud District Enjoyer is saying, in terms of both the AMLO government and the Claudia Sheinbaum government cooperating with American authorities, that is 100% correct as well, for the record. And Donald Trump seemingly likes Claudia Sheinbaum. Donald Trump liked AMLO as well, regardless of their ideological disagreements, for the record. So you're not wrong on that front either. The Mexican government, the Mexican federal government, has actually played ball with the Trump administration's anti-immigration agenda. That's a huge deal. They have. I would say that's a major part of the reason why they have actually been sheltered from the animosity that every other country has gotten in the region, even Canada, right? It is because Sheinbaum has continued the AMLO policies of abiding by the wishes of the American government, or specifically Trump, in terms of the anti-immigrant stuff that they want the Mexican government to do, just like hold the immigrants in Mexico rather than allowing them to cross the border, things like that. There is valid criticism against how the government has handled cartel violence in the early 2000s and 2010s. Felipe Calderon took a hard approach against the cartels, which led to an increase in cartel murders. Peña Nieto took $100 million in bribes, and AMLO did hugs and not bullets, which I'm not a fan of, but understand is stopped the bleeding to some extent. So far, there's zero evidence for U.S. involvement besides the vague idea that it would be convenient for the U.S. narrative. There are a million more reasons to suggest that it's a failed internal attempt by the dying institutional parties to co-opt popular symptoms to crack down on the approval of the administration. I'm highly skeptical of this being organic. I don't think this is organic. I think the inception point is, the initial argument is organic. Okay? But considering that it is identical to the argument that we are presenting with Venezuela, I'd be very careful to lean into this without assuming that there's some kind of going on. Because color revolutions have oftentimes started with real resentment of an unsolved issue, internal politics leading to potentially even civil war in its most in the worst instances, potentially leading to civil war, oftentimes backed by outside groups that take advantage of that instability to dismantle a somewhat popular leader that isn't in, and sometimes unpopular leaders that isn't in the periphery of the West or under the complete control of the Western interests. The populist revolution globally is unstoppable. The national palace in Mexico is under siege by its citizens amid discontentment with Claudia Sheinbaum, the World Economic Forum puppet. Narco-terrorism is the WMD of Latin America, okay? They're going to keep, I think the American government is going to keep doing this like, oh, these guys are narco states. These guys are narco states. They're led by the cartel. Yeah, they stoke internal division for external interests. And there are always willing participants like the marginal opposition flank. Yeah, discontent about cartel violence is real, but the right has co-opted this to push their agenda against Morena. U.S. is not happy that Mexico might join BRICS. I don't know. I mean, I think Mexico has been doing fairly well and is like getting closer to China, and I think that's part of the resentment. Mexico is one, though, yes. But even in instances where it's not a narco state like fucking Venezuela, they're still using it. And in Mexico, it's too much of a behemoth to actually tackle. I don't think Mexico is joining BRICS, but they are close to China. It does make me sad to see the fucking straw hat being used like this. If in your march there appear Nazi, Zionist, anti-Semitic, colonizing, sellout, misogynistic, and partisan speeches, and no one confronts them or removes them, it's not a slip-up, it's a stance. Simple. Your march is Nazi, Zionist, anti-Semitic, colonizing, sellout, misogynistic, and partisan. The rest is extractivist propaganda. They tried to blame the young generation to whitewash their responsibility, and it didn't work out for them. President Sheinbaum exposed the right-wing operation, 90 million pesos spent in 2 months to inflate tomorrow's protests using Argentinian and Spanish accounts linked to Atlas Network, infamous for targeting sovereign governments in the region on behalf of transnational corporations. This is an inorganic call funded by the international right. The expert explained at the Daily People's Conference. They're real people. Everyone hates her. That's so funny. These guys are so fucking delusional, man. Greg Grandin was on Chapo last week talking about their new Monroe Doctrine, wherein Trump guys have their guys in L.A., in Latin America like Milei and incoming Chile to lock down parts of South America, but for the rest that is facing a real pink tide / light revolution after decades of imperial conquest, they need to be crushed. Yes. Venezuela isn't a narco state? Yes, it's not. I know that. I said that. This is AstroTurf, but likely not by the CIA, is that Gen Z protesters is somehow entirely people over 45. It's being AstroTurf by the right-wing parties, and particularly billionaire media mogul Ricardo Salinas Pliego. There was a smaller Gen Z protest plan, but this took over and the original organizers backed out. Yeah, except those are people who are aligned with the American government and their interests. They are aligned with the interests of capital. That's my point. And they try to do this against an unimaginably popular candidate. Anyway, Mexico's doing too good. So they need a little bit of that classic instability. But yeah, it's led by Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas, who was recently forced to pay billions in taxes, now holds a grudge against the government. And he also owns a large media empire. Part of the fucking reason why AMLO directly went straight to broadcast on YouTube, just like Claudia Sheinbaum is doing, is literally because in many Latin American countries, the media is entirely controlled by billionaires who fucking despise even modest social democratic gains for the overall population. They want to counter those assholes. That's the reason why they go straight to the audience. That was part of the reason why AMLO was able to maintain a level of success for his agenda. That is part of the reason why Claudia Sheinbaum has continued to be successful beyond the expansions of the welfare state. You have to understand. There are like 3 major TV stations in Mexico and they control everything. Yeah. Now, luckily, this wasn't very successful, but it's just like annoying that it's happening to begin with.
Along with the barriers outside the home of the president, police used tear gas by the National Palace in Mexico City. And what started as a demonstration against government corruption in a country dominated by drug cartels has become explosive. Thousands gathered across the capital, supposedly organised by Gen Z youth groups, and the finger being pointed at those in charge, blaming the government for general insecurity across the nation.
All we want is justice and zero impunity in this government. We're tired of the government never acting, of power being concentrated across all branches and controlled by the same group.
Across the country, those arrested wear a skull and straw hat symbol taken from the Japanese manga series One Piece, which has become the defining icon of a global Gen Z movement. Over the last few weeks, protests have become deadly in places like Morocco, Kenya and Nepal. In Madagascar, the president fled for his life. In Mexico, the recent unrest was sparked by the assassination of Urupan mayor Carlos Manzo earlier this month. Seen here just minutes before he died, he was killed in front of a crowd at a Day of the Dead festival. His was the latest high-profile murder, having been known for his outspoken stance on organised crime. A 17-year-old was found responsible. Social media may be mobilising Gen Z, but it's also being used by drug cartels in Mexico to recruit children as young as 6 years old to commit crimes. Human rights groups say there are hundreds of thousands of children vulnerable to recruitment. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum unveiled plans to deploy more than 10,000 troops and police to fight organised crime. This weekend, she cast doubt on the protests, suggesting instead they may have been organised by political opponents and promoted by bots on social media.
They say that young people were marching. In reality, there were very few young people. They violently pulled down some fences and broke windows. We say no to violence. If you have a disagreement, you have to demonstrate in a peaceful way.
While these have become violent, the online organisation of protests under the banner of having Gen Z across the world is decentralised from any one route of power, and thus difficult to verify those behind it. Here, after a year in charge, the president still has high approval ratings, but the state of security in a country long overrun by cartels is a discontent that has existed here for years. These protests may look different country to country, but this is Mexico's version right now.
This morning, a surge of federal agents arriving in Charlotte, North Carolina, in what the Trump administration is dubbing Operation Charlotte's Web. Federal agents seen making arrests around the city.
Usted me lo quiebra, usted me lo paga.
In one encounter here, masked agents.
They're flying the wrong flag. They should be flying the Dragon's Revolutionary Army flag. Okay, dude. Is Claudia playing ball on immigration out of fear or tariffs? Is that the source of the real animosity? Like the mayor's assassination is the catalyst, but where does the real animosity stem from? Is Claudia not doing enough against the cartels? I think it's virtually impossible for Mexico to successfully dismantle the cartels. And I don't know how they would ever actually successfully dismantle the cartel power in the country. I think America has done so much to turn Mexico into what it is right now, that it is. I don't know. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any way that you could actually do it. I mean, people have tried, but as long as America is right there, creating an incredible market for drugs, and is always ready to give the best and newest weapons in exchange for said drugs. As long as America continues its war on drugs attitude, which seems to have only escalated with the Venezuela stuff, I don't think you can actually successfully dismantle the cartel structure. At most, you could probably turn it into like the Yakuza in Japan, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you can basically normalize them, allow them to have like regular professional businesses and coexist alongside the government, I guess. And then eventually they just kind of fizzle out of power. Some of them become successful successful corporations and are straightforward, like, you know, private enterprise, whatever. And then others will basically fizzle out of power. But I just don't think that you can actually dismantle the cartels by force. I know it's insane to say, but I mean, right off the rip, there's like very few Gen Z people in this supposedly Gen Z protest. I think they're just like trying to bill it as such because they've seen a lot of like organic mobilization that's taken place all around the world that have been billed as Gen Z protests. But yeah, I mean, look at the Gen Z of Mexico. I guess they're old as fuck.
Can I ask what you think about the nearly 80% approval rate of Sheinbaum?
No. They bought that. They don't. That is not true.
According to El Financiero, it's about 76%.
Yeah, but that is not true. No.
She's like, fake news, fake news, fake polls, and fake news. Abuela's running around being like, I'm Gen Z.
Bueno.
That's awesome. Well, she's definitely Gen Z. These protesters also love Donald Trump.
Días, Donald Trump, presidente de México, que es...
Así, 1000 veces sí.
Parece sobre Donald Trump.
Que está haciendo un buen trabajo.
¿Y qué le parece sobre la militarización de los Estados Unidos?
Pues que también igual, si estuviera aquí como el país, tampoco no estaría bien.
Well, he has good things and other things that we are not.
What would you say some of the good things are?
Well, he
Mexico cannot dismantle the power of the cartels as long as they have an unlimited supply of American weapons flowing in from the north, but cutting ties with cartel-linked officials would certainly help, and I would like to see Morena do so. Viva Mexico. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said.
takes the life. I mean, the newborn, okay?
Abortion.
Abortion. He's against abortion, okay?
De Donald Trump. A mí me parece un buen presidente. A lo mejor no es lo mejor que hay. Sin embargo, si hubiera quedado Kamala, yo creo que la situación sería peor, porque Kamala, junto con Biden, son algo muy parecido a lo que es López Obrador. Y por eso se permitieron muchas cosas en Estados Unidos. La llegada de muchos emigrantes, muchos narcos hay allá de Biden con López Obrador, con el gobierno de Morena. Por eso se invadieron de narcos y de delincuentes.
¿Y preferías?
Alex Jones' theory, take on this made Ryan Grim consider your theory that Jones is CIA. I said, has Alex Jones always been a CIA, or is this just a one-off jaunt? Yeah. Abortion is still illegal in Mexico, by the way. Wait, what? Didn't they literally legalize it recently? Like a couple of years ago? CNN, the state is dying, said Rosa Maria Avila, a 65-year-old real estate agent who traveled from the town of Patsuaro in the Michoacán state. Gen Z is so old. Hold on.
% de la aprobación de este país, que lo saque a las calles, que lo saque, que no blinde sus edificios. Si la gente ama a este gobierno, ¿por qué blinda los edificios? ¿A qué le tiene miedo? Que saque a la calle a los que la aprueban y salimos a enfrentar.
Can I ask what you think?
Ex-president and Coca-Cola executive definitely is Gen Z. Yeah. How old is Vicente fucking 80? Let's see. Vicente Fox age. Oh my God, this motherfucker's 83 years old. Are you fucking kidding? Okay, he looks actually pretty good for 83. Let's be real. It's crazy how much noise this fucking chair makes when I sit on it. He looks like you, Hassan, in the future, Lamau. This guy owns a smoke shop franchise now. I guess that shit keeps you young, brother. Because goddamn. Law, they're trying to market their color revolution neoliberal protests like they market soft drinks to youth. It's all olds wearing marketing aimed at what they think the youngs like. This is like a living parody. It's crazy. It sounds like a bark. Look, listen. Oh, Austin is here. Hold on.
Oh, it's not that much better than mine. It's not that much
Look,
better.
You hear that?
Yeah. Not that much. Man, you got quite the setup here. A little mobile setup going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Austin.
What's going on?
What are we doing today?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am doing my first stream in China. I couldn't be prouder to bring you an IRL stream exclusively on the Austin Show channel and the Hassan Billy channel. We are going to work, well, not technically work, we're just going to have a good time serving people and cooking in a Chinese restaurant, okay? I have set it up with Irene, and she said it was possible. I asked her, and she's like, no, totally possible. I was like, is this okay? Is this good? She said, absolutely. I've got it approved beforehand. We're going to work and serve locals in a Chinese restaurant in Chongqing.
Yeah.
Like I said, everything's been approved beforehand.
We're going to serve them Chinese food, or as I like to call it, food.
Yes, that's right. Oh my God, I never thought of that.
Yeah. It's just because I'm Chinese, that's why.
But when I am abroad, I do say American food.
Yeah, well, it's because...
Even though we don't really have food.
Yeah, well, I call it food instead of Chinese food because I am Chinese. You know what I mean? Like, I've become so Chinese.
Do you feel more... I mean, I'll be honest. This whole time, I have thought that I had a better Chinese accent when I spoke.
Oh, until Irene corrected you?
On multiple occasions, has...
Said you suck.
Destroyed my ego when it comes to my ability to speak Chinese.
Sorry about that, King.
Yeah.